There's a reason you found this message today, not tomorrow, not next month. Today, because something inside you is tired of waiting. Tired of watching other people rise while you keep repeating the same cycle, the same doubts, the same limitations. And what if I told you that becoming a millionaire does not begin with money? It begins with identity. Most people will hear the title, How to Be a Millionaire in 12 Days, and instantly laugh, because they've been conditioned to believe wealth must take decades, struggle, sacrifice, exhaustion. But here's where it gets interesting. The people who change their lives the fastest are not always the smartest, not always the most talented, not always the most educated. They are the ones who make a decision so powerful that reality has no choice but to reorganize around it. And if you stay until the end, you will understand why these next 12 days could become the turning point of your entire life. Day one begins with silence, not action, not grinding, not chasing money, silence. Because the first thing you must hear is the voice that has been secretly controlling your life, the voice that whispers, "You're not ready. You don't deserve wealth. People like you never become rich." Most people never question this voice. They obey it unconsciously for years. But the moment you observe it, you separate from it, and that changes everything. Day two is about imagination. This is the part most people never understand. Your mind cannot move toward a future it cannot emotionally see. That's why poor thinking creates poor results. Not because money hates you, but because your inner world keeps recreating the same external reality. Close your eyes and imagine waking up already wealthy. Not hoping, not wanting, already there. How do you breathe? How do you walk? How calm does your body feel, knowing bills are no longer a threat? Feel it deeply enough, and your nervous system begins accepting wealth as normal. And once something feels normal, reality starts moving toward it. Day three is dangerous, because this is the day doubt attacks the hardest. Suddenly your mind says, "This is fake, this won't work. You're being unrealistic." Good, because doubt appears whenever you approach transformation. A seed breaks before it grows. A storm appears before the sky clears. Don't lose focus now. This is important. Your old identity will fight for survival. It wants familiarity, even if familiarity means suffering. But millionaires are not people without fear. They are people who stopped worshipping fear. Day four is about energy. Walk slower. Speak with certainty. Stop chasing approval. Poor energy begs. Wealthy energy attracts. Have you noticed how powerful people rarely rush? That's because desperation repels opportunity. The universe responds to emotional frequency more than words. If your energy says, "I am lacking," life echoes more lack. But when your energy says, "It is already mine," doors begin opening in strange and unexpected ways. And what I'm about to reveal next changes everything. Day five is where you stop obsessing over how. This is the trap that keeps millions stuck. They ask, how will it happen? Where will the money come from? What if it fails? But the how is not your job yet. Your job is alignment, because every major breakthrough in life first appeared impossible, until suddenly it happened, a phone call, an idea, a connection, a moment. Reality can transform faster than logic can explain, but only for the person prepared to receive it. Day six is about removing invisible poison, jealousy, complaining, victim thinking. These emotions silently destroy abundance. Every time you envy someone wealthy, you unconsciously tell your mind, "Money belongs to others, not me." And your subconscious obeys. Instead, bless wealth wherever you see it. Train your mind to say, "If it exists for them, it exists for me too." That single shift begins rewiring your reality. Day seven feels strange because you'll begin noticing signs, repeating numbers, unexpected opportunities, ideas arriving at random moments. Most people dismiss these moments, But aware people understand something deeper. Reality speaks before it changes. But here's where it gets even more powerful. Day 8 is when you stop identifying as your current bank account. Read that again. Your current situation is temporary. It is an old echo of past thoughts, past emotions, past assumptions. The future does not care about your past. And the moment you emotionally detach from limitation, your mind becomes available for expansion. Day 9 is discipline, not forced discipline, identity discipline. Millionaires think differently every single day, even when nothing appears to be changing, because true power is persistence without visible evidence. Anyone can believe after results appear, but creators believe before reality confirms it. That is rare. And rare thinking creates rare lives. Day 10 is gratitude, not fake gratitude, real gratitude for what is coming. Feel thankful before the manifestation arrives. Why? Because gratitude signals certainty, and certainty is magnetic. A fearful mind pushes blessings away. A grateful mind pulls them closer. This is the part most people never understand. The emotional state you repeat daily becomes your future. Day 11 is surrender, not giving up, trusting deeply. You stop forcing, stop panicking, stop checking every second for proof, because desperation delays what trust attracts. The wealthy mindset is calm. It knows what belongs to me cannot miss me. And finally, day 12, the identity shift. This is the day you stop saying, I want to become wealthy, and start saying, I am wealthy now, because everything changes when the inner self changes first. The world responds to who you believe you are, not who you pretend to be, not who you wish to be, who you truly accept yourself as. And if you can hold that identity long enough, despite appearances, despite doubt, despite delay, your reality eventually bends, because the greatest secret of wealth was never hidden in money, it was hidden in consciousness. So tonight, before you sleep, ask yourself one question. What if the version of me I've been waiting for already exists? And if that version already exists, then maybe these next 12 days are not about becoming someone new. Maybe they are about remembering who you really are. Your bank account does not change first. Your identity does. And the moment you truly understand this, your entire reality begins to shift in ways that feel almost impossible to explain. Because most people spend years trying to change the outside world without ever touching the inner self that keeps recreating the same results. They chase more money, more opportunities, more strategies. But somehow, they keep returning to the same financial ceiling. Why? Because the subconscious mind always pulls you back toward the identity you secretly accept as true. And this is where everything shifts. Imagine someone hands $1 million to a person who still feels poor inside. At first, it feels exciting, life-changing, unreal, but then something strange happens. Fear appears. Self-doubt appears bald. Decisions appear, because their inner identity does not feel safe holding wealth. Most people miss this part. Your nervous system fights unfamiliar realities, even if those realities are beautiful. That's why some people sabotage opportunities, delay success, or shrink themselves the moment life starts expanding, not because they're incapable, but because their inner identity whispers, this is not who we are. And the subconscious always tries to protect what feels familiar, even struggle. But here's the truth. The moment you emotionally accept a new identity, your decisions begin changing automatically. You stop thinking like someone who is barely surviving. You stop reacting like someone who expects disappointment. You stop walking through life waiting for things to go wrong, and without realizing it, your energy changes. You speak differently. You carry yourself differently. You notice opportunities you were once blind to. This is the part people call luck. But it was never luck. It was alignment. Think about it. Have you ever noticed how some people walk into a room and instantly feel powerful? Not arrogant, not loud, just certain. That certainty influences everything around them. And money responds to certainty more than desperation. But here's where it gets even deeper. Most people are unconsciously repeating an old financial identity every single day. I'm broke. Money is hard to make. People like me never get rich. I always struggle. At first, these sound like harmless thoughts, but repeated thoughts become emotional patterns. Emotional patterns become identity, and identity becomes reality. This is why two people can have the same opportunity, yet completely different outcomes. One sees possibility, the other sees fear. One acts with confidence, the other hesitates until the moment disappears. And what I'm about to reveal next changes everything. Your mind is always searching for evidence to prove your identity true. If you identify as unlucky, your brain highlights failure. If you identify as powerless, your brain notices limitations. But if you begin identifying as abundant, capable, wealthy, your perception changes, suddenly ideas arrive, kongs appear, confidence grows. Not because the world magically changed overnight, but because your mind finally allowed you to see what was always available. Don't lose focus now. This is important. The future version of you already exists mentally before it exists physically. Every millionaire first became wealthy in consciousness. Before the money arrived, the identity arrived. Before the results appeared, the belief appeared. And this is why forcing external change without internal transformation never lasts, because reality eventually mirrors the strongest identity you hold within. So tonight, ask yourself honestly, who have I been believing myself to be? A person constantly struggling, or a person preparing for expansion? Because your bank account is not just responding to your actions. It is responding to the story you repeat about yourself every single day. And the moment that story changes, everything else begins following behind it. The moment you stop obsessing over how reality begins moving in ways you never expected. That sounds impossible at first, because the human mind is addicted to certainty. It wants every step explained before it believes anything can happen. How will I make the money? How will the opportunity come? How can my life change this fast? And without realizing it, most people spend their entire lives trapped inside those questions. But here's the truth. The constant need to know how is often just fear wearing the mask of logic. Because when you endlessly search for proof before believing, you delay the very reality you want to experience. And this is where everything shifts. Think about the biggest moments of your life, the unexpected phone call, the sudden opportunity, the person who appeared at the perfect time, the idea that changed everything overnight. None of those moments arrived because you perfectly calculated every detail. Life moved unexpectedly. But most people are so focused on controlling reality, they block the very miracles trying to reach them. Most people miss this part. The subconscious mind responds more to emotional certainty than physical evidence. That means if your inner state constantly says, "It's impossible, nothing ever works for me, I'll believe it when I see it," your mind remains locked in limitation, because you are emotionally rehearsing failure before success even has a chance to appear. But when you begin saying, "It's already mine," something strange starts happening internally. Your body relaxes, your fear weakens. Your energy shifts from chasing to expecting, and expectation is powerful. A person who expects abundance notices opportunities differently than someone expecting disappointment. This is why two people can stand in the exact same environment and experience completely different realities. One sees doors, the other sees walls. But here's where it gets even deeper. The universe cannot fully deliver something you continuously doubt. Imagine ordering something online, then canceling the order emotionally every single day. That's what most people do with their desires. They visualize success for 5 minutes, then spend the next 10 hours worrying about why it hasn't happened yet. And that contradiction creates resistance. Don't lose focus now. This is important. Believing it's already mine does not mean pretending reality doesn't exist. It means refusing to let temporary appearances define your future. That unpaid bill, temporary. That current struggle, temporary. That fear in your mind, temporary. But the identity you choose to hold daily becomes permanent if repeated long enough. And what I'm about to reveal next changes everything. Your brain is constantly filtering reality based on belief. If you believe opportunities are rare, you overlook them. If you believe success belongs to others, you unconsciously pull away from it. But when you deeply accept, my breakthrough is already unfolding, your perception sharpens. Ideas begin arriving unexpectedly. Motivation returns. People respond differently to you. Not because magic suddenly appeared, but because belief changed your emotional frequency first. And emotional frequency influences action, focus, confidence, and persistence more than most people realize. This is why wealthy-minded people often appear calm before success arrives. They already feel connected to the outcome internally, while everyone else keeps panicking over visible proof. This is where most people give up too early. They plant the seed, then dig it up every day searching for signs. But real transformation requires trust during the invisible phase, because reality often rearranges itself quietly before the visible breakthrough appears. So imagine yourself 1 year from now. The money arrived, the opportunities appeared. Your life expanded beyond what once felt possible. Now ask yourself, what version of you created that future? The fearful version demanding constant proof, or the calm version that finally decided, it's already mine? There is a voice inside your mind that has been quietly shaping your entire life, and most people never even realize it exists. It speaks softly, almost casually. You can't do that. You're not smart enough. What if you fail? People like you never become successful. At first, it sounds like protection, but here's the truth. That voice has stolen more dreams than failure ever did. Because long before reality says no, the mind already surrendered. And this is where everything shifts. Most people think their biggest enemy is lack of money, lack of opportunity, or bad circumstances. But the real battle begins internally. Because if a person secretly believes they are powerless, they will unconsciously reject anything that challenges that belief, even success. That's why some people quit too early, why they hesitate at important moments, why they sabotage opportunities that could completely transform their future, not because they are incapable, but because an invisible voice keeps whispering, stay small, stay safe, don't risk change. Most people miss this part. The mind repeats familiar thoughts so often that eventually they stop sounding like opinions. They start sounding like truth. And once a thought feels true emotionally, it begins controlling behavior automatically. Think about it. How many times have you wanted to start something powerful, only to suddenly feel doubt? You get excited for a moment. You imagine a bigger future, then almost instantly another thought appears. What if I embarrass myself? What if nothing changes? What if I'm not enough? That voice arrives so quickly most people assume it's their real identity, but it isn't. It is conditioning. And what I'm about to reveal next changes everything. That voice was built from repetition, past failures, criticism, fear, childhood experiences, watching others struggle. Over time, your subconscious collected these moments and created an identity designed for survival instead of expansion. So even when opportunity appears, The mind searches for danger first, because the subconscious would rather keep you familiar than free. Don't lose focus now. This is important. The voice saying you can't often becomes strongest right before transformation. Why? Because growth threatens the old identity. The moment you begin imagining a greater future, the mind panics. It says, "Who do you think you are? This is unrealistic. Stop before you get hurt." And if you obey that voice long enough, you slowly build a life beneath your true potential. Not because life denied you greatness, but because you denied yourself permission to become it. But here's where it gets even deeper. That voice only has power when you believe it without questioning it. The moment you observe it consciously, something incredible happens. You separate from it. You begin realizing, if I can hear the voice, then I am not the voice. And that awareness changes everything, because now, instead of automatically obeying fear, you can challenge it. You can ask, what if this thought is lying to me? What if my future is bigger than my current identity? What if the version of me I fear becoming is actually the real me? This is where inner power begins, not when fear disappears, but when you stop treating fear like authority and imagine your future self for a moment, confident, wealthy, calm-free. Do you think that version of you no longer hears doubt? No, the difference is they stopped obeying it. They learned that fear can speak without being followed, and most people never reach that realization. They spend years listening to a voice that was never designed to predict greatness, only survival. So the next time that inner whisper says, you can't pause, because maybe that voice is not protecting your future, maybe it's protecting your limitations. So now, everything has come full circle. You began with a question about becoming something more, but you were slowly guided toward a deeper truth. It was never about becoming, it was always about remembering. Remembering that identity comes before results, that emotional certainty shapes experience, that the voice of limitation is not truth, just repetition, that reality does not lead transformation, it follows it. And most importantly, the moment you stop identifying with what you see right now, you stop feeding it the power to define your future. But here's the real realization most people will overlook. Nothing outside of you was ever in control, not circumstances, not timing, not even your past, only identification. And what you consistently accept as me quietly becomes your life. Now you understand, but only a few will apply it, because understanding is easy. But detaching from an old identity while still living in it requires something deeper, stillness in the mind, discipline in thought, and a refusal to treat temporary reality as permanent truth. So listen carefully. Nothing in your outer world needs to change first. Not your bank account, not your environment, not your current situation. The shift happens inward, and everything else follows. And maybe the most powerful part of all this is simple. The version of you you've been searching for is not ahead of you. It is what remains when you stop believing the old story. Now pause here and really take this in. Because if you listen to this again, it will hit differently. Not because the words change, because you will. And when you do, you'll realize this was never just a speech. It was a mirror. And the moment you stop resisting what you are not is the exact moment you begin becoming what you truly are.